Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Today we are talking about alternators. Now, we have a 2005 Ford Focus here, 1.4 petrol. And what was happening is, driving down the road, all of a sudden the battery light came on and they kept driving and basically the car cut out after a few more minutes because the battery wasn't getting charged. Now, if this happens to you, there's a couple of things it could be. First thing you want to do is get out your car, come down here and make sure your fan belt, I don't think we're going to be able to see it on this, but make sure your fan belt, which is here, is still on, which this one is. So if your fan belt's still on, it's a good indication that you maybe have a problem with your battery or you have a problem with your alternator. It can really only be a couple of things. Either your fan belt is snapped or come loose, your battery or your alternator. That's kind of the three most popular things. It might be other things, but you know, very rarely do they have other problems like wiring problems and stuff. Can't start this unfortunately, it's completely dead. But what was happening is, the way we tested it is once we knew the fan belt was on, we turned the car on, you have to jump start it, turn the car on, took the jump leads off, and basically the car was only putting like 10 odd volts into it. As you can see, there's 11.7 volts there. Now the car isn't turned on, but that should be over 12.5 volts when the battery is good. When the car was running, it was only putting like 10.5 or 10.7, I can't remember exactly, but it was putting not a lot in. So that gives us a very good indication that it's our alternator. And our alternator is just here. Not one of the worst ones to do. What we have to do before we even attempt to take anything off here, best thing to do is disconnect your battery. I'm going to disconnect the power lead off my battery, which is a 10mm, then we're going to work on this. Now, like I said, there is a possibility it could be wiring issues and stuff, but on modern cars it's normally the alternator. We have to get it checked anyway, so we're going to have to take it off. Once we get it checked, and if it doesn't say it's a problem, then we know we've got to obviously look at other things. So that's an 8mm bolt. I'm just taking away the should slide off now, power steering bottle. So just move that to the side. A little 8mm bolt was holding it on there. Now what I need to do is take off this plate. So we should have two bolts here and a bolt further down, if I can see it. You have a bolt underneath the alternator, which I can't quite see at the minute, but just once I get it out I'll show you. And then we also have here, we have the clip, the wire clip, and also the power wire, so the main feed. So we need to undo these connections as well as undo the 3 bolts. Right, so we'll take off these 2 bolts. They're 15mm bolts. It just depends on how they come off. Yeah, so I'd say we're going to have to take off this bolt as well. Just the nuts just come off. Sometimes when you do that, the whole bolt and the nut comes out, but in this case it hasn't. Once taken off that, we can take off this plate. The plate is also bolted onto the bottom, so if I can try and take off this bolt at the bottom, which you're not going to be able to see, but once I get it off, should hopefully be able to show you. Get a smaller 15mm socket. Now I had to get a 1/2 inch ratchet with a 15mm on because the 3/8 was a bit too small to get in there, and with the long reach socket on it was too big. Now this bolt doesn't seem like it wants to turn, so the problem is I can't do anything but to take it off. But that feels to me like it's going to snap, which is a problem. And the problem is there's no way I can get anything to it. I'm going to take out this first and see if I can do anything, but I don't think I can. We could be in trouble here now. Now, so it's an E8 torque that I need to get this bolt out, and hopefully I might be able to, once I get this out, move the alternator and maybe see that bolt a bit better, but there's no guarantees on that either. Problem is, there's a metal bolt screwing into an alley housing, and that's our problem. It could have seized itself in there. But we won't know until we get to it. This looks like it doesn't want to come out either. Doesn't feel like it's coming out. If I can hold that, maybe. Or is it just that it needs to? I'm going to have a lot of problems with this, I think. That bolt just feels to me like it's spinning now. It's not coming out, and we need it to come out. There we go. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. At least that one's out. Now, I can see the bolt a bit better, but the problem is I'm still got the same problem where you're not. Hopefully, I'll see if you can see. Now, I don't know if you can see that just there, just at the edge of the alternator. You can just see where my finger is. Just down there is the bolt. But the bolt is going into an aluminium frame, and that's my problem. And it feels like it's going to snap, and if it snaps, we're in big trouble. And there's no way I can heat it, there's no way I can do anything to it, because I can just cause too much damage to other things. So now I can see, hopefully it might be turning, it's just quite tight. I couldn't quite see it before. And just as I thought, it snapped. Now we are in trouble. What I'm doing is taking off the power lead, 10mm. I've disconnected the clip, and then this alternator is out. But the problem we have now is the snap bolt. Off the fan belt. Now, the alternator is out, but as you can see, here is our snap bolt. Now that looks like it's been cross-threaded. In fact, it has been so someone's cross-threaded that bolt in. That's why I had the problem. So we're going to have big issues here now. What I might have to do, the easiest and quickest way out of that, is to try and get this out and just drill a hole straight through and put a nut and bolt in it. I think that's what I'm going to have to do to save a hell of a lot of time. Right, there's no way I'm going to be able to film this. As you can see, I had an old bit of exhaust shield which I'm just covering the pipes with, and I'm going to try and heat this end up here with the little gas torch that I have, and put my stud extractor on, which is a 10mm stud extractor, and then hope for the best. But I really don't know if this is going to work, and I can't film it because I'm going to get in the way, and I also have to be careful of all the pipes and all the switches and stuff. So wish me luck. Now, just as I thought, we're in a lot of trouble here. What I've done is I've got a nut that fits over the stub. I've cut out a section, so I'm going to slide this over the nut, over the bit that's sticking out, try and weld inside here to weld it to the nut to try and get it out. I honestly don't know if it's going to work. I don't think it will, but I just got no option. I've had, even with heating it, the problem is I had a rag down there and I kept having to wet the rag with water, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So as you can see, what basically I'm trying to do with this, that slits on there. I'm going to try and weld from basically make up the gap that I've cut into the bolt, and then hopefully try and twist the bolt off. Don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. Right, as you can see, I've managed to weld it, but I don't think it's going to work. The reason why I don't is because I just couldn't get enough weld on it. Normally when you weld bolts on a stub like this, you normally have it upright in front of you and you can sink a lot of weld into the middle, and you know, you can do all that, and I just couldn't. And I've also got to be careful of it's a petrol engine and there's all pipes and stuff, so I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to try it. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to pick it up, but we'll see. But I'm just expecting this to snap. The 19mm. Well, something's happening. I don't know if it's just the bolt turning and it's kind of just spinning on it, on the actual bolt, but an actual stub, sorry. The other thing, if you do manage to weld this, I know not everyone's going to have a welder at home, but what you want to do is you want to make sure it's nice and cold before you go at it, because when you put heat onto this, you're going to expand the bolt. So you don't want the bolt to expand, you want the bolt to be cold. So you've got every chance of taking this out. No, didn't think so. But it did, to be fair, actually grip onto it, because I've snapped some of the bolt off. So I actually got that a bit better than I actually thought, but I still kind of didn't think it will do it. The problem is we're going to struggle to drill this because there's just no room. I really don't know what we're going to do now. We're kind of in a lot of trouble now. All because somebody has cross-threaded the bolt. That's all this is. Somebody just not looking what they're doing. This is just a nightmare. As you can see, I've gone through a load of drill bits. I had to cut the bottom, basically cut the drill bits in half for them to fit in the gap that we had. Now hopefully you can see I'm using a 90-degree angle on my drill bit. Unfortunately I can't even undo the engine to lift the engine up to get a drill in because there's just not enough room. So the only way I could do it was use a 90-degree drill bit head attached onto my drill, but then all the drill bits were too long, so as you can see I've had to basically cut them in half to get them in. I am nearly through. You have to step it up in increments, so you have to start with a smaller drill bit going all the way up to the final drill bit. The final drill bit is now in. It's 10.5mm, so I am more or less all the way through now. So I've just got to wait for my drill bit or my batteries to charge again, then hopefully get it through and then find a bolt. And even the bolt isn't going to be easy because I'm going to have to put a nut and bolt on it, and it's going to be very difficult to tighten the nut, so I might have to try and weld the nuts just to keep it enough for me to tighten it, but I don't know yet. I'm going to have to wait and see. So there's more joys to come. Get the alternator back and see what happens. Now as you can see, just a nightmare. What I've had to do is I got a longer bolt and a nut, and I welded the nut onto here. Don't know if it's going to work because this is cast after all, but all it really has to do is hold the nut enough for me to screw this in. Once that's screwed in, it will kind of hold itself. So I'm hoping this is going to work. If it doesn't, I'm in serious shit. You can see all the filings and stuff down there, so I'm going to have to clean all that off. I've test fitted the old alternator and it fits, but I haven't tightened it. So when I get it back from the reconditioners, and let's just hope the bolt is nice and straight, so everything looks okay. So I'm just hoping. So yeah, just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Okay, now as you can see, we have the alternator back. The rectifier was gone in it. It's been repaired. It's now back. As you can see, I try and get in a lot better now. This is what I've done. It's the only way I could think of doing it. Now, before anyone gets smart and say, oh, why didn't you try and re-tap it? The problem is, whoever put the bolt in put it in such of an angle that I couldn't drill the hole bigger I couldn't drill the hole the same size to tap it because of the way the bolt was actually angled in. And if I was to drill the hole bigger and to try and tap it, it means I'd have to try and drill out the alternator, and it was just too much hassle. So what I've done is I've just put a captive nut at the end of it. The bit of weld is only to hold the nut, it's not to do anything structural. Once the bolt goes in, if the weld held, then the nut will be holding itself. It's not going to really be a big deal. So we're going to try and fit this, and yeah, let's see what happens. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this in first. And the mistake a lot of people make is you don't put the bottom bolt in first. I'll try and explain. So as you see, the alternator is in here. If you try and put the bottom bolt in, it just won't line up. So what you have to do is you have to put the bottom bolt in last and have this together like that. I think someone's tried to put the bottom bolt in, cross-threaded it, tightened up, and then forced this. That's what I think someone's done, which is just the wrong thing to do. So hopefully I can do this if the dogs don't decide to kill themselves. Okay, yeah, that's it. Fight. So just put that bolt in and then put this one in. Milo! Trying to film here. God! Can't believe that. Ignorance. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this one in first. This is an E8. So an E8 torque to screw the actual bolt in, then we'll put the nut on it. And again, you have to be careful because remember, you are just going into cast. So, get that in. And the bolt goes there. And now I can screw this one in. Now I'm not going to tighten anything until I got the bottom bolt in. Because as you can see, there's still a little bit of movement. If you try and tighten the top bolt and put the bottom bolt in, you're going to cross thread it, you're going to possibly do damage. So you want everything loose, but I'm just trying to get everything so it's more or less lined up. Now this next bit you're not going to be able to see, but you're going to get the idea. So I'm going to feed the bolt through, and then you're just going to have to kind of wiggle it just to get it in, get it lined up. Exactly where I need to get it, which is there. So that's gone in, which is good. Now I need to get, I don't know what size that is. It's a 15 mil. I have to get the bigger ratchet just so I can actually clear everything. So now what I'm going to do is tighten the bottom bolt. Going in, which is good. Now that's only nipped. It's not fully tightened, so I want to tighten these first and get these pushed in, just like that. Now I can tighten them all. And this is the moment of truth. Will this one hold? There we go. Now, that was an absolute nightmare, but as you can see, we've got around it. We've done it. I would have preferred not to do that. I would have preferred to be able to re-thread it and put a normal bolt back in, but I just couldn't do that, unfortunately, with this one. It was just where it was very, very awkward. But anyway, it doesn't matter because we have done it. That is nice and tight. What I'm going to do next is put on the main bolt, or the main... Right, so what I have to do next is just put the clip on and the wire. So, for some reason... Where has it gone? Here it is. So we just clip the clip on, that just pushes on, you hear a nice click. Now we've got to put the wire on, 10 mil. These can be tricky because they're just awkward. So we'll just try and get that on there. Just like that. Going on. One thing I have done as well is I've just put the fan belt on and I put this cover back. That cover holds the power steering reservoir. So let's just screw this down. Once we screw that down, so just make sure that's nice and tight and give that a good clean with sandpaper or something like that, just so you've got a good connection. Put the little rubber grommet back. Put this back on. Put the battery in, and then we're ready to start and see what happens. There's a little locating stud on the bottom of this. You have to make sure you get in, otherwise it won't go down far enough. Oh, that's it, drop the bolt. There we go, that's now in. Right, so that's now down. And the next thing is put the battery back on. Now it's always a good thing, before you put the battery back on, just kind of tap it like that, just to make sure there's no big draw. There's a bit of a spark, but that's kind of normal, but make sure there's no big huge sparks or anything smelling. So we know we can put that down and tighten it. Now I had this battery on charge yesterday, so hopefully there's enough in it now to start it. If there is, we're going to start it and see what charge is like. Now the way to check the battery, I put the tester on that, it says 14.4, which is quite high, but what you got to remember is this battery is most probably down. So the car is trying to charge it up because this alternator is completely drained, even though I had it on charge. But so don't particularly worry about that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn everything on. I'm going to turn the lights on full, turn the radio on, turn the heater on, turn everything on I possibly can, and let's see what it's reading then. Have everything turned on. Let's see. 14.3, so that is absolutely perfect. Nothing wrong with that at all. All the battery lights turned off inside, so we know we're good. We're going to leave this running just to charge up that battery and to double check there's nothing really going on there, and that's it. So look, hope it helped. Thumbs up and subscribe, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next